My name is Lena Harper. I was 23 when the ocean tried to swallow me whole. The storm didn't come with a warning. It rose like a monster in the night, black waves, howling wind, and a fishing boat too small for the fury it faced. One minute, Lena was coiling nets. The next, she was airborne, flung into the Pacific like driftwood. Salt stung her eyes. Cold punched through her bones. The boat was gone. I remember screaming, but out there, your voice doesn't matter. The ocean doesn't listen. She clung to a broken plank, the only thing between her and the abyss. Hours passed. The sky turned slate gray, then black again. She could barely keep her head up. Her fingers were numb, her breath shallow. That's when she saw the fin. At first, she thought it was a hallucination, the long curved blade of a dorsal fin slicing through the water just yards away. It circled her once, twice. I knew what it was, a killer whale, an orca, and I thought, this is how I die. Not the storm, not the cold, but teeth. But the orca didn't attack. Instead, it swam beneath her and rose. With a sudden surge, Lena was lifted, her back pressed to slick warm skin. The whale held her up like a raft, balanced still. I was too weak to resist, too afraid to understand. All I could do was cry, not out of fear, but disbelief that something wild, something free had chosen to help me. The orca didn't leave her side. For nearly an hour, it kept her afloat, nudging her toward the distant shore. When the Coast Guard found her, Lena was barely conscious. They said I must have imagined it, that no animal would do something like that, but I know what I felt. I know I'm alive because of him. She never saw the orca again until 5 years later. 5 years later, I still dreamed about him. Lena had tried to move on. She left fishing behind, went back to school, and got a degree in marine ecology. But the sea kept calling her, not just the water, but him, the orca with the scar over his left eye. I know it sounds crazy, but I started calling him Rune, like the ancient symbols sailors used for protection, because that's what he was to me, a symbol of survival, of wonder. She joined a research crew, tagging pods off the coast of British Columbia. For months, she tracked whales from a distance, recording, documenting, and hoping. Then, one morning, her sonar pinged something massive. They followed the signal, engine soft, and then there he was, right in front of us, breaching the surface like a shadow rising from memory. Same shape, same rhythm, and then I saw it, the scar. Her breath caught. Rune didn't flee. He didn't hide. He hovered near their boat, just like he had all those years ago in the water. She leaned over the rail, heart racing. I whispered his name, quiet, like a prayer. He tilted his head, as if he remembered. Her team was stunned. Orcas were curious, yes, but this one stayed. He swam beside their boat for an hour, never once aggressive, almost gentle. I know what people say. Whales can't remember faces, that they don't form bonds like we do. But I swear, he knew me. From that day on, Rune followed them. Every time they went out, he was nearby. Close, but never intrusive. He'd surface near me, look me in the eye, and for a few seconds, it felt like we spoke, not in words, but in something older. But then something changed. A call came in from a fishing village further north. An orca had become entangled in ghost nets, heavy, rusted, choking nets from abandoned boats. Locals said it was one of the biggest bulls they'd ever seen, with a scar over his eye. Lena didn't wait. She boarded the rescue vessel alone. The sea was restless that day, like it knew something was wrong. Lena stood on the bow, wine slapping her face, scanning the horizon as they neared the tangled mass. A small fishing skiff had reported the entanglement, a black shape thrashing, then sinking. I told the rescue divers I was going in. They said I wasn't trained. I said I owed him my life. She dove. The cold hit her like knives, but she pushed deeper. 30 feet down, through murk and drift, she saw him. Rune was suspended in the water, barely moving. Thick netting wrapped around his pectoral fin, trailing like seaweed. His eye, that scarred, familiar eye, was dull, defeated. I swam to him. My knife was small, but I started cutting as fast as I could. Every second counted. He twitched once, a flinch, but he didn't fight her. It was like he knew, like he trusted me. She sliced the final coil from his fin. Then something shifted. From the corner of her eye, movement. Fast, sharp, a second net. The wreck of an old trawler was collapsing nearby and its lines were caught on her tank. Panic. I was stuck. I couldn't reach my knife. I kicked and pulled, but the rope just tightened. Her lungs screamed. The surface was a shimmering blur above her. Then Rune moved. He swam closer, close enough I could feel the current from his body. And then, with this eerie gentleness, he nudged me. Not a shove, not panic, a deliberate motion. He turned sideways and scraped his body against the net's edge, ripping it, just enough for me to twist free. I shot up, lungs bursting, and when I looked down, he was gone. They told me later they saw him breach once far out to sea, heading north. She stood on the deck, dripping, shivering, heart aching. He saved me again and vanished. A week passed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about him. Lena sat at her desk, fingers buried in old files. She had pulled every record from the sanctuary's archives, photos, sighting logs, incident reports, anything with a hint of Rune's past. I started noticing a pattern. Every time Rune was spotted, there was something else, a ship, a net, an accident. One report chilled her. August 9th, 2012, a family's boat went down in icy waters off Baranoff Island. Coast Guard found them clinging to driftwood, said they were pushed to the surface by something massive with eyes like a man's. No vessel had ever claimed the rescue. The survivors were never named, but the date matched. That's when Rune first showed up with the scar. She leaned back, heart pounding. He wasn't just some injured stray. He was watching, protecting. Then came the drone footage. A researcher from Alaska sent her something he hadn't shown anyone else. It's Rune. He's swimming beside a pod, but not orcas, humpbacks. And he's not just following, he's hurting them, keeping them away from a whaling vessel, shadowing the group. One clip showed him breaching between a harpoon and a calf. I watched that video a dozen times. Couldn't breathe. That's how he got the second scar. He took it for the baby. Suddenly, it all made sense. The nets, the shipwrecks, the stories. He wasn't just a survivor. He was a sentinel, Lena whispered into the recorder.
He's not lost. He's choosing to stay hidden, to stay close, but just out of reach, because Rune wasn't waiting to be saved. He was saving everyone else. They said it would be a mild day at sea, just a few clouds, but by noon, the wind howled like a beast let loose. Lena gripped the wheel of her small research vessel, eyes stinging with salt. The sky turned black like ink poured across the horizon. Her colleagues had begged her not to go, but she had received a sonar ping that matched Rune's size and signature just off the coast of Middleton Island. I had to know. I had to see him. The waves rose like walls. Rain hammered the deck. The motor whined, then sputtered and died. Mayday, Mayday. This is the Polaris research vessel. Engine failure. Coordinates 59.3 north. The radio fizzled out. Lightning cracked. And then silence. A swell lifted the boat like a toy. She slipped, crashed into the railing. Blood filled her mouth. The sea, cold and monstrous, swallowed her. I sank down, lungs burning, vision fading. Then something massive moved beneath her. Not a shark, not a hallucination. I felt warmth, pressure. Something is holding me up. She surfaced with a gasp, and through the storm/dark, a dorsal fin sliced the water. It was Rune. He was circling me, guiding the current, keeping me above the waves. And then she saw them, a distant Coast Guard cutter, but they were searching in the wrong direction. Rune dove, then he rose in a full breach, just 30 yards from the vessel, his black and white body framed by lightning, a flare in the storm. They saw him, followed the breach. That's how they found me. Pulled aboard, wrapped in blankets. Lena couldn't stop shaking. Did you see that? The orca, he led you. The officer gave a faint nod. We saw something, but Lena knew what they wouldn't admit. Rune hadn't just saved her life. He had chosen her life, and now she owed him the truth. They released me from the hospital the next morning. Concussion, cracked ribs, but none of it mattered. Lena stood on the beach where it had all started, wind curling through her hair, heart a storm of its own. Rune saved me, not because of training, not because of instinct, because he remembered. Her hands trembled as she opened the satchel she'd carried across the country. Inside, a worn cassette tape, a Polaroid of a young boy laughing beside a baby orca, and a laminated tag, K119, Project Kepler, decommissioned.
His real name wasn't Rune, it was Kai. He wasn't just some rescued juvenile. He was born in captivity, taken from his mother, trained to recognize sonar commands and underwater signals. Part of a Cold War era program was scrapped decades ago. The boy in the photo, my father, he was Kai's original handler. They grew up together. But when the project ended, Kai was released, alone into wild waters he didn't understand. My dad told me bedtime stories about the whale who followed him even when the base shut down. He thought Kai had died, but he hadn't. He survived. And somehow, when Lena met him, Kai remembered.
Not me, not my face, but the voice, the sound of a world he once trusted. And now, after everything, after saving her life, the government wanted him captured again. They called it protective custody. Lena called it a prison. She had one chance. One morning tide. I motored out at dawn, just me, no sonar, no bait, just a single broadcast from the old cassette player. A soft, whistled tone, rising, falling, like a lullaby from another life. The water stirred. Then he came. Kai breached just once, right beside the boat. She held out the photo. Tears streaked her face. I know you remember him. I know you remember me. He hovered near the surface, his dark eye locked on hers. And then he turned and vanished into the depths. Not with fear, not with anger, with peace. She never saw him again. But weeks later, a fishing vessel off the Aleutians reported something strange. An orca, traveling alone, circled their hull before breaching so high that it soaked the deck. Lena heard the recording. It was Kai, still free, still choosing his own story, and hers was finally finished.